Welcome to the Research Works podcast, brought to you in association with the Healthy Strides Foundation. Your hosts are Dr. Dana Poole
and Dr. Ashley Thornton, and we're here to interview world-leading researchers, clinicians, and people with lived experience
to support your practice in being more evidence-based. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the pod. And today we have a returning guest, one that we said back in 2022 that we're pretty keen to get back to have a follow-up conversation. And here we are. Welcome back, Dr. Paula Chagas. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me again.
I've been very excited to speak with you, and I do feel for you sometimes because I email you from time to time, don't I, and go, is it out yet? Is it out yet? Can we start talking about it? And you've been busy working on it. So I know that unfortunately Ash couldn't make it today, and she is so disappointed because she really wanted to follow up with this conversation as well. We love nothing more than seeing research that's been materialized into implementation. So for our listeners, last time, as you might remember, on the pod back in 2022, we spoke to Paula about the initial development of the gross motor, the family-completed version of the gross motor function measure. And today we are talking about the measure itself, which will soon be available for all of us to use. And the paper that we'll center our conversation around today was published in Developmental Medicine and Child Neurology just last year in 2024. And it is titled Gross Motor Family Report, Refinement and Evaluation of Psychometric Properties. Now, before I introduce everyone to Paula, this must be a huge achievement for you and the entire team to actually see this start to materialize. How does it feel?
Yeah. Oh, it feels wonderful. It's a 5-year work already. So nobody knows what's behind a tool development, right?
Yeah.
Until you're really into it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work entitled, so it's finally getting out of the oven. So we're really, really happy with it.
Oh, I bet you are. Then yes, and I'll stop emailing going, when is it out? I can't wait to use it. All right, well, before we get into all of that, we really want to hear the background of how this is developed as well. I think it's important for everyone to understand, why measures are robust. But let's get into it. So Dr. Paula Chagas is a physical therapist with a PhD in rehabilitation sciences. She is currently at the Federal University, Juiz de Fora, Minas Gerais in Brazil, and an associate member of CanChild. Some of Paula's work includes the coordination of a multi-centered project called Participa Brazil in collaboration with CanChild. And under the guidance and support of Dr. Peter Rosenbaum, Paula led the validation of this new measurement tool, the Gross Motor Family Report. Paula is widely recognised for her contributions to family-centred, psychometrically robust measures that are practical for both research and clinical care. Music to my ears, all the work that you do. I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, we love a good formal getting to know you. And as everyone knows, the informal getting to know you is so, so valuable. And I know I learn so much from it. Sometimes it feels like confessions for me. But today, because of all the work that you've put into this particular area, I thought this would be a very sort of work-related, sort of personal balanced life question. And the question is, do you have a ritual or a habit that helps you stay grounded during busy research periods?
That's a great question. And kind of tricky.
Yeah.
But I'll have to tell you some of my secrets.
Told you, it's confessions sometimes.
Well, I love pressure. It's funny because there are some people that don't like pressure, right?
Yeah.
But I only work with pressure. If I have too much time to do something, I usually leave it to the end.
100%.
I don't do it right away.
Yes, okay, we relate.
Yeah. I put urgent stuff before and then goes until it gets to the urgent point.
Yes.
But that's how I like to work. And that really keeps me up.
Yeah.
Is a big cup of coffee.
Yeah, good.
During the day.
Uh-huh.
But if I have to go through night, a glass of wine.
A glass of wine, okay. I like you have a beverage for the season and the time. Look, it is worthwhile for everyone to know the time zone difference. our time zone difference is not favorable and it's not very nice, is it? Last time I remember I was here late at night so we could do a morning for you. And I remember sleeping on the little bed here we have in preparation. And this time, this is near your bedtime. And we may see a glass of wine there in the background potentially. I love that.
No, not today. Stay on water.
I love that, Paula. I love that, you need to know yourself to know how you work under pressure, don't you? Because there are deadlines.
Yeah.
And you need those deadlines.
All the time.
Yeah. And you can't, sometimes planning ahead to know what you've got is a good thing, but I would relate absolutely to you. For me, my ritual and habit is I love to exercise. And I try to do whatever form it might take, whether it's running or walking. It just helps me to reset so that I don't feel too stressed with the amount of work that I have done. But something that I'm learning to do more and more of is instead of doing so many of the things and only doing 20 or 30% of it, just working away in bits and pieces, that just makes me feel stressed. And I'm trying really hard just to sit and finish one thing if I can. But it's hard when you have so many projects on the run.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So,
but I like doing that too. Like, today I'm going to get this and get it rid of.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a big deadline for everyone is if you headed to the conference, EACD, I know a lot of our friends, researchers, we're all probably about to start madly doing our presentations. I think they need to be uploaded in the next 4 weeks. So this is the time.
It is the time. Yeah, that's on my schedule from tomorrow on.
Perfect.
In view to my presentation.
Perfect. Nothing like a bit of pressure. Hopefully that's helpful for others, that feeling a bit of pressure is a good thing. And I completely agree. All right, well, let's tell everyone a little bit about this paper. Now, this study aimed to improve and validate the Gross Motor Family Report, or the GMFR, a parent-reported tool designed to assess the gross motor performance of children and adolescents with cerebral palsy in their daily environments. Feedback from 12 parents helped refine the tool's items, scoring and usability, resulting in the GMFR version 2. The updated tool was then validated with 146 families, showing excellent internal consistency, strong test-retest reliability, and robust validity across the GMFCS. The GMFR scores correlated strongly with established measures like the GMFM66 and the Pediatric mobility domain, and the study concludes that the GMFR is a valid, reliable, and family-centered tool that complements existing clinician-administered assessments by capturing real-world motor performance in children with CP. So there's a lot to break down there. I know I summarized it really quickly. Isn't it amazing when all this work gets distilled into a paragraph? But every statement in there has been worked on meticulously by the team. So I thought, Paula, take us back to the beginning, from the very start. What prompted the development of this family report in the first place?
Oh, this is really a great, I think, view inside of the whole team. And it all began during COVID, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was planning my postdoc studies, and one of the aims of the Participa Brazil study was to recreate the curves of the GMFM in Brazil to see if Brazilian children had the same development as children in Canada, the same rhythm, the same stability in times and everything.
Right.
Then COVID hit us. And then I said, how are we going to measure gross motor function now? We can't be in place. We can't be with the children. How are we going to work out? And we were just talking, me, Dr. Peter Rosenbaum, Dr. Virginia Wright, Leslie, Richard, and Marilyn Wright, about these changes of thinking of functioning. Like, we can't think about functioning only inside the clinic. That's when we really evaluate capacity.
Yes.
That's what we do really good, I think, as physio.
Yes.
We really are great at it, but that's not what we want to change. We want to change, like, performance in real day life.
Yes.
What the children actually do when they are in their natural environments, at home, at school, in the community. So we thought that we needed a tool that could represent this because we had the PDCAT.
Yes.
But the PDCAT wasn't the aim of the PDCAT mobility is not only on gross motor function. It has some other abilities tested that are a little bit different from the GMFM.
Yeah.
It's also reported by parents. But we thought, no, we had to create something based on the GMFM that reports performance, but especially can be reported by parents. And that's something that they usually see in their daily lives and explained by photos of children doing it.
Yes.
And not pictures of a normal kid acting.
Yes.
So that's all that came into to us when we were developing the measure.
That is wonderful. I love that. I love that, innovation does come when you're in a point of, it's a pressure point again, like during COVID, what does that actually look like? But I love the heart behind wanting to measure what actually happens in everyday real life, because that has been tough. How do we do that in an objective way? Can you tease out a little bit more between capacity and performance? I feel like that's a really important point. Like you said before that capacity, we're really good at assessing that. Can you just help us to define what that is?
Yeah. So capacity is what the child or the person does in a modified environment. So it shows the capacity to end or to perform a task, but in a change environment, like a really good environment, like clinic environment.
Yes.
That the floor is steady, there's no barriers, and everything when she's going to hold is firm.
Sure.
So she won't be afraid. So that's what capacity does. And performance is what the child or the person usually does in her real day life. I like to explain this to my students the following way. We have a child that walks freely in your clinic. She walks back and forth with no problems because she's in a safe environment.
Yeah.
But every time she gets outside the clinic, she gives her hand to her parent or her caregiver.
Yep.
So she doesn't trust herself when she goes out.
Yeah.
So she needs a hand.
Yes.
She needs someone that's going to walk on uneven surfaces, to go up and down stairs. So she can't be able to do that on herself alone. So she has the capacity to walk. She's good at it, but she doesn't perform really well when she's in a natural environment.
Yes, I love that. That's a beautiful distinction. They're both important. You want to be able to know what someone is able to do, and measuring that over time is important. But the real life application is where things really matter. So the gross motor function measure then, that's a measure of capacity. Can you go through why is it important for us to measure children that we see on the GMFM in the first place?
Well, first, it's a gold standard measure. Everybody around the world, those that work with pediatric rehabilitation, at least have heard about the GMFM once in their lifetime, or use the GMFM as outcome tool. So it's a measure that it's appropriate to measure different abilities like 66, 88, or even the items one, the item set, or the basal ceiling that has a little less items that represent what children is capable of doing inside the clinic.
Yes.
That's important as an initial evaluation and an outcome evaluation after a period of intensive physical therapy or a different treatment that you are providing, or something that you just want to see if your service is working after 6 months or a year to see how the child is progressing, because it measures the capacity of the child in the same environment, in the same setting.
Yes.
So you see the capacity of her to do these items before and after.
Yes.
So it's a very important tool.
Sure.
And I have great examples of that. Our GMFCS level 3 teenager that I have been following up with GMFM since she was 8. Now she's 15. And I have every 6 months, I have her evaluated, sometimes even in a shorter period. And I can see very ups and downs in her curves around time.
Yep.
Because she had moments that she had surgery and then she lost gross motor function
Sure.
and then she recovered. And then after she gained gross motor capacity after treatment.
Yes.
And then she did another surgery and then she got down again.
Uh-huh.
So it's incredible to see all these changes in the curves across the time, and especially to see that despite all these changes, she was never another type of GMFCS.
Sure. Yep. Yep.
Because a lot of people think that the GMFM is a measure of outcome, and it will provide changes in the GMFCS levels according to what your goals are or what intervention you are doing. But that's not what it actually is meant to be.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I feel like that's really important in terms of the GMFM and its relationship with the GMFCS. Do you mind just going into that a little bit more?
No. So the GMFCS is a predictable classification tool. So when you know the child around 2 years old, what's her GMFCS level, she has around 80% of chance of staying in the same level until the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Some children have possibility of changing, but it usually happens between the first years of life because they were not completely well classified.
Yes.
So this is an important statement to see. And what happened is one child that's GMFCS level 1 is not equal to another child GMFCS level 1. All like the new cerebral palsy definition said, every child is unique and every form or presentation of the cerebral palsy is unique.
Yes.
So they are the same type of CP, the same type of tone, the same level of functioning, but they are not the same child. So they will have courses through the development that is going to go different ways.
Yes.
And so they can be like lower in gross motor capacity, like they have small changes across time, or they can be high level gross motor capacity. They have big changes all the time.
Yep.
Or they can be in between and fluctuate between low and up and low and up.
Yes.
These curves, when they did the prediction of gross motor function in 2022, these curves were afterwards redefined in scales like the growth chart, 5%, 10%, 25, 50, 75, and so on.
Yes.
And when you look at these curves from the study of Hanna et al. In 2008, you can see that sometimes the lower curves of the GMFCS level 1 are the same as the highest GMFCS level 2.
Yes.
The low of the GMFCS level 2 match sometimes the high of the GMFCS level 3, and so on.
Yes.
So that's when sometimes physios want to sell the treatment saying, oh, I changed my child of GMFCS level because she gained capacity after intervention. And when you plot in the GMFN, she will be able to be on another curve.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it changed performance.
Absolutely.
Because GMFCS is an outcome classification of performance.
I see. Okay. Now that makes sense. And I love how you've captured that really beautifully, because looking at the curves is really important to understand the full range, but also understanding how this actually matches with performance and what we need to see from there. Thank you for describing that so beautifully for us. So let's dovetail now with that background into the GMFR. Let's start from the beginning of that as well, because I know we spoke to you last time about it, but I think it's worthwhile for the listeners to hear the journey from the different phases. You had the first phase where that first developed. Can you take us through that and how we came down to where you are now? Yeah.
So we started in 2020 to select the items. We had this idea to create this family reported tool. So we went through all the 88 GMF items. This was a great team of 13 researchers, 4 from Canada and 9 from Brazil. And then every item that we had 50% plus agreement we selected at the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, we selected some other that were like indiscrepant because of one vote, because were an uneven number,
Okay.
an odd number. So after that, we selected, I think, 38 items in this first phase. And then afterwards, we did another refinement of this, saying, oh, these 38, can we represent, are these really useful in their daily lives of the child and represents things that they do at home? Can we represent this with pictures? Do families need any special furniture to test this? Because we don't want them to have to buy anything. They have to be things that they have in their house or in the environment that they live. And then after this, we came up with the first version of it that was of 30 items.
Mm-hmm.
And that at that moment, we had a scoring of 0 and 1, and some half points with the use of technology, of assistive devices. But we didn't separate right and left. We didn't separate several things that we, as a team, didn't find was important.
I see.
So that was the development of it.
Okay.
And also a change was that the name of the measure was Gross Motor Function Family Report. This was in 2022.
Yes.
So the acronym was GMFFR. What happened when we started doing the validation of the second phase with the families and the validation of the reliability and the validity with the other measures? At first, the name, we thought the acronym wasn't good. Because what happened? Every time we were going to say GMFFR, we sometimes the F and the F got like, I don't know how to say it, like.
It does get muddled. I think I had trouble saying it before, and you would, and that's why I think I had difficulty saying it. I remember.
Yeah. So we said, okay, let's take one F off. So we don't need the function. We don't need the function because we are now trying to defend a tool that doesn't represent function anymore.
That's beautiful.
In the context of the ICF.
I love that. Yeah.
It represents functioning. So everything changed after 30 years of the development of the GMFM. So, okay, let's drop the function. So we decided the Gross Motor Family Report and the GMFR.
Great.
So it was easier to say. Also, when we listened to the families at the first phase, that we wanted them to, their feedback and their participation in the development of the tool, so many things came. Like at first, like they wanted some pictures to clarify more items that they think they weren't clear enough. So we added new pictures. They thought it was really important to separate right and left.
Okay.
And so and like if the child only was able to do it with one side of the body, she would score less. I think this is really embedded in what physios and occupational therapists give on the background of research, of intervention.
Yes.
Not research.
I agree.
Because they are always functioning symmetry, right?
Yeah.
We're always sometimes
can't help it.
focusing on symmetry. So I think that was what gave these families the background to say that. Also, they at first they thought that the families that weren't very happy of seeing the whole measure with the GMFCS level 5, because it's not good to see that your child only is able to fill some small item. But the families in the GMFCS 4 and up, they thought that the measure could show so many options of them, even in all dimensions with assisted devices, that in the GMFM they would never be able to do. Because the GMFM doesn't consider assisted devices.
That's right. That's right.
So if they had help, if they could hold in something, and if they were with a walker or a gait trainer, they'll be able to achieve some items that they wouldn't be able to achieve without
beautiful.
it. And so that was really important for us, the feedback. And we even added another different item in the walking up and downstairs to consider the participation of the caregivers in that activity. Because we know many children with GMFCS level 4 and even level 3 go up and downstairs with the help of others.
Of course.
They can't go up by themselves. And this wasn't measured before. So we added the possibility of this being scored as a half point too, if they needed help with another person. Let's see what else. Oh, and one contribution the families did, and I think this could really be a change in the GMFM. Erling Wright's going to kill me. Let's exchange free. Like the items that when the child is capable of walking with 2 hands, 1 hand, and with no hand, the family said, give it all together. You're going to ask the family, does your child walk 10 steps? Yeah. If she does, how does she do it? She needs 2 hands or a walker. She needs 1 hand or a cane, or she can do it by herself.
Wow.
And I think this was an incredible addition because every time I test the GMFM, if a child walks by herself alone, why am I going to give her my 2 hands to walk?
That's right. That is a very interesting addition. I love how all of that, even just hearing you talk about it, gets me very excited because we're now measuring things that we've never really been able to measure before. And the idea of being able to, this really encourages the use of assistive technology, doesn't it? It doesn't sort of see them as that it's not so good to use. We're actually going, no, we want to understand with the use of assistive technology, this can be done. This is what is possible. And also, I can already think of the applications of why you would want to advocate for more assistive technology, and you would be able to see that from a everyday perspective, which is what funders want to see now as well. But, the families ultimately want to see that as well. Now, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself because I want to keep talking about the application, but I think it's good to understand from all of this, some of the psychometric properties. Clearly, this has been very much co-designed. Like the whole process that you've spoken about then is true embedded co-design. It wasn't just therapists going, this is a great idea. It was families going, no, I think you could do this better. And I love that you have taken that on. So can I ask what the role clinicians had in the development of the family report? You mentioned there before about symmetry left and right, probably by proxy was a therapist's influence into what families were saying. Was there any other main inputs from clinicians?
But we didn't listen to clinicians. That was something that we didn't have that feedback on the development of the tool. We are getting this feedback now with people that are already doing some research with us, and then we're having these feedbacks from the clinicians.
Right.
But some of the team that developed the tool were clinicians and researchers. So we had this background of being able to see what the practice would agree to it.
Yeah.
But for sure, it would be really interesting to have listened to them in the development of it. I think we missed that part. Sorry.
No, but I think this is where it's really interesting again. It's not like clinicians and researchers weren't involved in the development of this. It was so led by consumers of what they see as important in function, therefore should be important for us to look at. And that really guided you. So I love that. Okay, so let's get into some of the psychometric properties. Let's start first with reliability. Now, what were the areas of reliability that you assessed? There's many different types of reliability that you looked at, didn't you? Do you want to go through them just to explain, I guess, what it is and what we found?
Yeah, okay. So we wanted to see internal consistency of the reliability of the measure. And we wanted to see test-retest reliability. And this was especially reported by the family. You wouldn't have it didn't have the need for us to test inter-rater or inter-rater reliability because the raters are the family.
Yes, of course.
So the test reliability of them, doing it twice was enough for us to get to go. Well, we had a internal consistency really high. It was around 99, I think. Yeah, 99, the Cronbach
Yeah.
alpha. And that shows a little redundancy of the item because all of them measure gross motor function, right?
Right.
So, but that's it's the same with the GMFM. So
Of
we
course.
wouldn't
You
expect it
mentioned
to be
gross motor
different.
function anyway. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And also in the test retest reliability, we also had a great value around over 99% between scores of the families. They had between 7 days to 1 month to redo the retest. Again, we were through COVID, so this was a bit challenging to get all of them to respond. So we had all the 146 families that were included and agreed to participate in this phase were sent the options to retest.
Right.
But only, let me just check the correct number, only 46 returned.
I see. Okay.
Right? So this is like some challenges during COVID. But despite of that, 48. But the means were so high, like we had it was so proximal, one number to the other. And the ICC was so high also that it was enough.
It says
we
so
didn't
much.
need to get, we didn't need to get a higher sample to get to know that the measure was reliable also. And we even decided to create and evaluate it between ambulant children and non-ambulant children. So we had a more concise measure, a more even numbers between groups to see that maintained. And it's also maintained, the internal reliability.
That's fantastic because this was across all GMFCS levels as well. So it does show that it does have that robustness. And I love that the testing between 7 days and 30 days, you don't really remember what you do a month ago. So you are really basing it on your observation of your child and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about, you did look into, I read about the floor and ceiling effect, which I think is always an interesting component of it. Can you explain a little bit about what that is and why it's important to understand the floor and ceiling effect of a measure like this?
Well, we really wanted to see if the extremes level of functioning, like the GMFCS level 1 and GMFCS level 5, were able to respond to this test.
Sure.
Like, were we able to evaluate them as a group, not as an individual? Of course, we had 0 scores on GMFCS level 5, and we had 100 scores on GMFCS level 1, because we know that some children are capable of everything, and some children, unfortunately, are not capable of performing these activities. But despite this happened, it only happened in less than 15% of the sample.
Right.
That says to us that there are differences between the children that are classified in these levels, and that not all of them are in the floor and ceiling effect.
Great.
So we can measure differences between them.
Okay. That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And that's really good to understand and to know as well. I want to talk a little bit more about GMFCS5s later, but let's talk about validity first, because validity obviously is very important. So the 2 components that we always want to look at. What did you look at from a validity perspective?
Yeah, so the first was with the GMFM for sure. We wanted to see if it was valid with this gross motor gold measure that we had, the GMFM, and we expected it would be because it was based on it, and the results showed also it was really high. So
of course, had
0.94, 94% of relationship between the measures, and we also separated between levels 1 and 3 and 4 and 5, and we had also an excellent agreement between measures. Only the GMFCS level 4 and 5 were like a strong, not very strong correlation, right? It was 0.79.
Okay.
Probably because of these differences in lower performances to measure.
Okay.
And we also wanted to test it with the Pediatric mobility because it would be a measure more close to what we were proposing. Like it would be a family report also based on the information of the parents. And we achieved really similar results as with the GMFM.
That's brilliant. Okay, so now with knowing the reliability and the validity of the assessment, in terms of what it can look at, it's got very, very sound psychometric properties from everything that you've listed. And I'd really encourage everyone to look at the paper. There's some beautiful tables in there to actually have a look at all of these numbers as well, just so that we all understand, what this means. Because I think if we as clinicians understand how strong the psychometric properties are, we have more basis to ask families to complete a questionnaire. Because I think a lot of families get thrown a lot of questionnaires sometimes. But to actually understand this, I think is really practical. My question that I had that came from all of what you just spoke about, so I don't forget about it, is for GMFCS level 5. Now, you mentioned a little earlier that, sometimes to fill out some of these questionnaires, because it's the same questionnaire for all children. It's not one tailored for each GMFCS level. And you said sometimes there were some scores that they might have scored 0 for some of the measures in there. What were some of your experiences for that? Because I can imagine a little bit of hesitation, maybe presenting this questionnaire to a child that is GMFCS level 5 and may not function as well with this measure. What would you say about how that gets used for this population?
I think we always have to be clear with our families, whoever we treat, like the high-level functioning and the low-level functioning. And I think we have to put that the aim of our measurements is to see how our child is today and how she can be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So despite today she scores low, that doesn't mean she's going to score low all the time. Or maybe that shows us some items that we have to encourage for her to try to do, and we can think about possibilities for her to complete that. Maybe she won't be able to complete it without technology, but we have the options of having this conversation also with family.
Yeah.
Because we could never measure, like you say, you have to buy something that's really expensive or like create some adaptation in your house. And they say, why? But your base is something that you measure that can improve if you provide something else.
So could I, if I have a child that I'm working with, for example, and they can take steps in a supported stepping device in a walker, that would be something that we could measure on this, the 10 steps. Yeah? Yes. That's something that we could look at, and that's using assistive technology. And even for sitting, are there any sitting items there that we could use some supported sitting to look at their functioning? Is there any sort of measures there that we can use?
The caregiver can hold the child. Something, one of the items she can put in the hold, and then that would score differently. And also if the child reaches and cannot come up, that's also considered. So she probably can lean forward, but she can't straighten up yet.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So this is also considered. Yeah.
And I can see the practical applications of that already in terms of having that conversation, using the tools of conversation piece and going, okay, at the moment, this is where you're seeing. How can we get technology? How can we get equipment into the house? And, I have a PhD student at the moment that is in Nepal, and he is supporting the use of some supported seating. And he was thinking about goals he could use for that as well. And you do have different adaptations for different equipment. So I can imagine it could be used in different settings, in different ways based on what might be available. So I love that. I really, really am excited about that. Was there anything that stood out to you in terms of the results from the study and your whole experience that really, just captured your thoughts and thinking around the use of this measure?
Oh, no, I think especially when we were looking at GMFCS level 4s, because the changes that the family did aggregated so much value in the scoring of these children, in terms of they being able to show more of their performance than if we don't consider technology.
Yeah.
So, and I think this is something that people are looking forward more especially in high-income countries, and the opportunity of getting these resources from the government, like a stepping device.
Beautiful.
They are 1 year old and a power mobility since they are younger. So I think this provides them a different thinking about the function of the child. So many possibilities for them.
It is so great. It's so great. So some just real quick practical questions for you now, Paula. This feels like a fast fire questions for you that I have collated from our clinicians here as well. If we use this measure, does it mean we can't obviously map this on the curve, so we should still be using the GMFM 66 if we want to understand that, right? So how do you see the relationship between when we perform the GMFM 66 or the item sets or the 88 versus the family report? How do you see that being played out clinically?
Yeah, this was something really tricky for us to think and introduce into our manual, because we know that's what clinicians want to say. Yeah, and now what did I decide? I think every measure is valid and reliable and has its meaning. So it really depends on what you want to measure, what you want to capture with your measure. So the GMFM, we still have a great applicability, especially in clinical settings where we have and we will need to measure change in that short period of time, and with some different intervention that we're applying, and we want to really increase capacity.
There's so much value in there still.
Its applicability. Yes, fantastic. It's not a substitute. No, it's not a substitute. And the GMFR is it can be used in more spaced periods maybe, and especially children that are not followed inside the clinic, are more guided outside, and it's easier for them to do a family report and to come to the clinic for you to evaluate, and it can give you alertness of when you need an in-person evaluation.
Yes.
You see that something's not really doing well, and I need for you to come, and I need to do an in-person evaluation now and see what I can change, or I could propose as a better intervention for you.
That's beautiful. I can really think of how, if you're doing a telehealth appointment, I remember during COVID, we're trying to think of different ways we could still see the GMFM being done online, and people would send in videos for you. And that's when I was like, oh, this would be so good to have this measure. But I can imagine this being a great complement to a telehealth appointment where you could actually look at that to complement your subjective assessment. But I also could see as you're about to start intervention, you might, if you haven't seen the child for a little while, you might want to get this done to help you to prepare, so you're more planned about what that person might be doing. So you can see how that complements. That's really beautiful. Another question now, do clinicians need any special training for this? And I know that the GMFM manual the book has come out again, the next edition. I already got a copy. You can buy it online. I've got a digital copy because I love a good digital copy these days. So are there any additional training that you need more than what the manual says, or any courses?
Well, I think the manual that's coming out is really well explained of how the measure can be done, and that will be available at the Conchild shop together with the fillable form and a calculated TOEIC score. So it will be really useful for them to use in the clinic. But we know that people love courses, right?
Yeah, we love to sign up for a course.
They love to say, I want to hear more about the measure. I want to hear how I want to develop, and how can I apply it, and maybe some case scenarios to discuss. So we're planning at Conchild maybe to offer an online course on it, but not like a training course, an online course to clarify the use of it and to discuss the applicability. And
look, I love that, because at the end of the day, we're not the ones doing the measure. It's the families doing the measure. So it's really being co-designed by families with all that input. So, it's just maybe knowing when to apply it is probably the best case there. Next question is, how long does it take on average to complete one of these to complete the entire questionnaire?
Oh, I think it's the most good information about it.
Yeah.
It takes maximum 5 minutes, maximum, but it can be filled in 5 minutes.
Wow. That is fantastic. And what languages are available at the moment? Obviously, it's come out in English. What else is available?
In the English, Brazilian Portuguese, this was developed side by side.
Perfect.
And then it's almost ready, Dutch already,
Ooh.
Spanish, Croatian, and Urdu.
Wow.
But there are other ones coming up, like Portuguese from Portugal, French, and the Dutch, and it's around 10 languages already.
That is fantastic.
So
okay, that is fantastic.
these are the ones that are up front already, that I have already evaluated the version, and now will probably come, if not together with the measure online, soon the translations will be available.
Okay, sure. So we need to look onto the CanChild website sometime in June for it to be available for purchase there in terms of the family report. But if you've got the manual in the book, you can already start reading through that to see what it does.
No, yeah. So that's important. The manual, the information that's on McKeith Press, not the book on the McKeith Press, is just the introduction of it.
Yeah.
So it's just a beginning of it, how it was developed, and like what's contained, 28 items, the dimensions. It doesn't get into detail. You can't see the measure here.
Okay.
So the measure will only be available at the CanChild shop.
Perfect.
Also together with other information that we added in the manual that we developed for the measure.
Wonderful.
So it's a parallel.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
program.
All right. Not much longer to wait, everyone. Not much longer to wait. Okay, so now that you've done all this work, it's been 5 years of working on this family report. I'm sure that's not been the only thing you've been working on throughout all this time as well. But what's the future plans for either the measure or for yourself in terms of the work that you're doing, Paula?
Well, the measure is still promising. Like this second paper was the product of my master's student, Dr. Elton Magalhães, and he's like finishing his PhD now with Hercules Leite, my friend.
Uh-huh.
And we'll be able to develop a curve on it, on the GMFR. It's at least beginning. We have more than 400 measures now. So we'll see some of that in probably a year or two.
Wonderful.
And I also really want to develop a youth self-reported tool of it, a self-reported questionnaire for youth, and also one for children below 2 years of age, 0-2.
Oh, gosh,
So
that's all
in the plans
fantastic.
of the GMFR.
That is wonderful. So you're really basically not going to get any I'm not going to stop emailing you, basically. That's what all this means. I can keep...
have at least not 5 years to go.
Fantastic. I absolutely love that. Well, Paula, thank you so much for sharing all of that information today. You had me on the edge of my seat. I loved everything you shared with us so generously today. Of course, though, we're not done yet. We have our final segment to go. I know Ed's so excited for this. He loves chatting with you, Paula. So let's head to our final segment, Tell It to Ed. Ed, as you know, is our producer. He doesn't have a background in child health or the psychometric properties of any of these assessments that we've been talking about. So Ed has been listening to this entire recording. We didn't really tell him what we were talking about today until today. Paula, what I'll get you to do is summarize this area of research in about a minute or so. And then Ed, you'll have time for one question. So take it away, Paula.
Well, so the GMFR was developed by a research group really compromised in developing a family-centered evaluation tool. This family report questionnaire was designed to be easy to use, value parents and other families' caregivers' knowledge about their child's performance in everyday life, and could be appropriate also to be used in telehealth context. Our aim was to create a tool to create gross motor functioning data efficiently while taking into consideration the environment that the child lives. So the GMFR was also developed in the context of the emerging thinking of the importance of assessing children's everyday performance and motor activities in their natural environment.
That is beautiful. That was in less than 60 seconds. That was fantastic.
That was great.
Really, really good. All right, Ed, over to you for a question.
Look, I really love the focus on the real life application and the environments. And I was trying to come up with a good question I try and do that every week.
He gets very nervous about it.
I do. So I just kind of wanted to take maybe a slightly different perspective on this, and looking at the communities in Brazil or beyond. Paula, how do you kind of see the family report shaping the way that families or schools and healthcare systems kind of work together, to support children, in their daily lives? And I guess I'm just thinking about the big picture perspective and where this can kind of go.
That's a good question.
Great at.
That's really good.
Question.
Wish I came up with that one. That was a good one.
And that comes into and that goes closely to what my other big research plan now is, to be family centered and family engagement and research. So, and it's impossible not to value the family's voice. It's impossible not to think about how they see their children, how they think about their children in the environment. And when we give voices to them, when we hear what they are saying, they teach us so much more than we are able to see inside four walls of a clinic. So I think using tools like this makes families also reflect in their lives and how they have to perform differently with their children, and how they maybe have to let their children do more things at home, because sometimes they don't let them do these things at home because they don't think that children will be able to do it. So when we show family-centered tools, we create awareness also of what can be happening inside a family and how they can shape a future with us together.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's like a light bulb moment sometimes. We had a family here do exactly that, Paula, where we just wanted to see how this child was moving around in the bathroom. And because she was the only one able to take the video for us, she couldn't be around him the entire time. And much to her surprise, though her goal was for him to be able to get around the bathroom himself, she was like, oh, he can do it because I had to film him doing it. I wasn't there. I couldn't hold him. I was holding the camera and he did the whole thing. So that goal is now redundant. He can do it. And then, you know your child well, but sometimes you place an environment where you want to actually assess it. You have a different lens on. And even the parents gone, wow, so much more capable. Okay, I can let him do this now and let's move on to something else. And I think it's a great way to spark those conversations, and this tool helps us to do that. So I really, again, thank you so much for doing work in this area. There's so much involved in doing it. It's not something I think I have ever embarked on or want to embark on to develop a measurement tool, although I've been always very tempted because we need more good measurement tools around, because we want to be able to capture more of what is accurately reflecting the child and our interventions as well. And you're really, really just leading the way here, Paula. I cannot wait to use the tool. Genuinely will be like fighting to be the first person to get it on the CanChild website. I'm that much of a nerd. But thank you to you and your team. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you so much for the invitation, the opportunity to talk about this, and the love I have already for this measure and everything the team has done. And I'm so grateful for CanChild for supporting this, for being with me during all this time and all the work that we have been doing together.
Oh, that's just fantastic. This is the power of collaboration. So look, for everyone, I'll put a link to this paper on our website, researchworks.net, as well as a link to the CanChild website. Obviously, you're not going to see the measure there till June, but definitely mark that in your calendars and add this to your repertoire. And also there's a CPD form there that you can fill out as well if you want to keep this as part of a record of your PD requirements. But for now, Paula, I'll see you in Germany. I can't wait to see you there. Different time zone again.
Yes, I'll be there for sure.
It will be fantastic. Thank you to all of our listeners again, and have a really great week. Talk to you all again soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye.